I'm Stephanie.
Hi, I'm Angela.
We are the Ink Mages. Join us as we discuss all things fantasy, world building, storycraft, myths and legends, and of course, our own imaginative stories. Welcome to the Ink Mages podcast. Thanks for joining us today. It is a special episode because it is launch day for me. My book, The Wraiths of Arjun, is releasing today. It's book 2 in the Iron Kingdom series. So I am so excited that it is out and that you can get it in your hands. Woohoo!
I know it's such an exciting day. I had the opportunity to be an ARC reader for this book, and I'm excited to. I've already read it twice, but I'm excited. There's something about when you get the book in the mail and you get to read the words printed on a page. I don't know about you, but I like to actually read books. I don't like electronic books. I like physical books. This is book 1, The Conjurer's Curse. Isn't it beautiful? And just as beautiful, I actually even love it more, is the book 2. So Stephanie, I think that today is a great day to not just celebrate you and all of your amazing writing, but highlight the whole Iron Kingdom series. And I really want our viewers to hear all about The Conjurer's Curse, which is book 1 leading up to the release of book 2. And I happen to be in on the fact that book 3 is on its way as well. But
Almost done.
I know, I'm so excited, and it's so good. Honestly, they just keep getting better and better. So tell us a little bit about The Conjurer's Curse.
So I guess, we'll rewind a couple of years to, was it 2020? I think it was, yeah, or 2021, somewhere in COVID. That's just what I remember, because those 2 years were kind of a blur. But I had like an experience that was kind of unsettling, that left like a bad taste in my mouth. I had like an altercation with somebody just during COVID. A guy kind of treated me like I could kill him from standing too close, and so I thought, this is a strange idea that something invisible could potentially harm and kill people around us. So that day, I went home, was kind of just ruminating on this idea. And that night, this idea came to me of a 17-year-old boy who was born with a curse. And he didn't know where this curse originated from, but he's told by the chieftain in his village that he has to leave the village because his curse has killed people. And so it was just this idea. I had this dialogue that came to me, and I wrote it down in my notes on my phone, because that's usually what I do. I don't always go for my laptop, but I wrote it down, this whole dialogue. And from there, I had to build out this story. Okay. It's like, all right, let's have this 17-year-old be a warrior from this tribal village. Caravel is what I called it. It takes place in my fantasy world that I had already written, the Clash of Kingdoms series, which has like 7 books. So I already had this whole story built, this whole world built. And now it's like, I'm going to take like a character, put him in a different land that I haven't written about, and I'm going to take him on a journey. So it's very much like The Hobbit, with Bilbo having to go on an adventure, and he was going to go to all these different places, meet different people. And so during COVID, we were all locked in, and I thought, I want to go on an adventure. So I'm going to take this character and take him across the seas, take him through a sand desert, take him just all over and expose him to terrors, horrors, creatures he has to fight, and on the way, he's got to hope that he can find a way to break this curse that he was born with, because it is a life-draining curse, and it affects the people around him. Anyone who gets too close to him, it will siphon their life away. So that's Rowan's dilemma in The Conjurer's Curse. Yeah. So in that book, he does meet Tahira, and she's just a sweet, spunky miner's daughter that becomes his traveling companion along the way. And there's a romantic subplot there. And then once he gets to his actual homeland, he has an encounter with another main character named Akron, who is a two-faced pugilist and kind of a rough, brash character, but definitely a fan favorite. And so all 3 of these characters then become my main characters for the Wraiths of Arjun. So that I love them, and it's so fun to build upon their stories from book one. And I love that Tahira becomes a main character also with her own point of view. So yeah.
Was there anything that inspired particularly the character of Rowan and Acheron? Like, was there something that you pulled from when you were writing them? Because I can't tell you how much, especially now Rowan, you just love him. He is a well-written hero. You're cheering from him from the get-go. You're just wanting him to succeed. You're wanting him to conquer this curse, and you love him. But Acheron is a totally different situation. In book one,
Yeah.
you hate him. You barely like him. And then somehow by a magic twist, you love him. And I
Yeah.
just love how both of these characters are written. So I'm curious, was there anything that particularly inspired these two characters?
Well, for Rowan, I've always loved the tragic hero. I will read any book that has like a tragic hero who must overcome some great obstacle. So for sure, like his arc follows that stereotype, I would say. But as far as like personality, and traits and quirks, I did lean a lot on my husband,
Oh, I love that.
who just I adore. He's sweet, he's funny, but also like there's integrity about him. So, and his past, eh, I borrowed things
Mm,
that happened to him and I put it into Rowan's story. And so my husband was like his mom abandoned him when he was a month old.
wow.
So that when I found that out, I thought like that's horrible, that's terrible. And my husband is always just very positive about it, like it's okay. But I thought there's so much there. And what if I put that into Rowan's background? Because when he starts at the beginning of the story in the Conjurer's Curse, he's the only one in this village. He's an albino. No one else is like him. He has no idea who his people are or who his mother is. And so obviously he had one, but he doesn't know who he is or who she is. So in the story, he has to kind of discover more about him. And when he does have like an encounter with her, it's, I don't know, it's very tense. And I
Mm,
just imagined what it was like for, what that would be like to meet your mother after knowing nothing about her. And some of my discussions with my husband kind of helped me dig into that feeling because he doesn't have a relationship with her and she's never wanted one. And so it's
mm.
like, oh gosh, this is terrible. So much of a scene in that book is totally drawn from experiences with someone super close to me.
Wow.
So I think that's what really gives that scene a lot of weight, a lot of realism. The emotions are really strong there. There's a lot of anger, and I still think there could be some anger there too, like talking to my husband's brothers. They all kind of they don't understand what their mother did. And so that when it comes to that character Zuri, I think it was always hard for me to write her because I was like, I don't get this woman.
Yeah.
I can't like as I can't understand how the decisions certain people make. So there is a
Yeah.
lot of real world stuff that went into these characters, like real people I was drawing from. Now with Akron, I can't say there was a specific person that I was like that inspired or I was borrowing from, but I know that my uncle and a friend of his, I would watch their interaction when I would go to like Good Bean Coffee. And the guy, his name was Ed, he was a boxer in his younger days. And there's still, even though he's older, he has this like kind of arrogance, brashness about him. And my uncle is a conspiracy theorist. And both of them will just go back and forth, bantering and kind of taking like some one shots at each other. And so that's kind of where Akron and Ravel's characters came from. Like with Akron being just this two-faced person who's like a punk, he just loves to start brawls. I thought, who's going to be a friend to this person?
Right.
Like, how can this guy who's just so arrogant, such a jerk to most people, like, how could he have a friend? And I thought, well, if he had a friend, it's going to be somebody who will call it like it is, be blunt, be truthful, and they're just gonna like kind of tear each other apart at times with their honesty. And so that's kind of how Ravel, which I know a lot of people love that side character because
Yes.
he does get some of the most humorous lines
Yes.
in the story. And because my uncle is a conspiracy theorist, I was like, I'm going to add that. I'm going to add that element to Ravel for humor.
The world that you have this story taking place in, this is a world that you have built out in another book series that we have yet to see come to life and be published. I can't wait. They're
Right.
amazing books. I've only gotten to read 2 so far. But there is this feeling of more. You can feel it when you're reading it. And even as Rowan is traveling, he meets pirates. He's from a jungle village. I mean, they're not really pirates, but they're on the sea. You
Or
know,
they're on
they
the
kind
high seas. Yeah.
yes, and then you have he goes through Mestria at one point, which is the main superpower
Yeah.
of this world. They're the ones kind of like the Empire in Star Wars. They're the ones
Yeah.
that rule over everything, and they're oppressors. So tell us a
Mm-hmm.
little bit about the Mestrians because they are kind of huge as far as being antagonists in your story.
I would liken them to the Roman Empire
Yeah.
for sure, in the way that they have kind of global domination in my world of Tarsia. And it was funny because writing the adult fantasy series, The Clash of Kingdoms, Mestria is the main hub of where the story takes place and the characters. But because most of my characters are in Eldon and Mestrian, they see themselves as the good guys, you know?
It's complicated.
But it's complicated. So, I have a knight character and a high lady, and they are doing basically the immortal king's bidding. Like, that's what they do, that's what they know. But in this story for the Conjurer's Curse, it's like, no, everybody else hates the Mestrians because they are oppressors. They just come in with their military and their army, and they decimate and overthrow, and they make vassals of the other kingdoms. And it's not always like, oh, well, we're gonna just come in and we might kill your king, we might wipe out your court, and now you're gonna they indoctrinate, and now you speak their language over a period of time. Some kingdoms get off better than others. Chandria kind of got just decimated. Like, king got wiped out, army got wiped out, there is no court anymore. Whereas the kingdom Valdar, which is in the adult fantasy series, they still got their king, but he's more of like just a figurehead to kind of keep the masses under control. So not everybody loses their king, but it just depends on the politics in that situation. So yeah, it's interesting having that dynamic of they're kind of seen as the good guys in one series, but then like, no, they're hated and feared in another series. And I think that's kind of like real life
Yeah.
with wars and stuff. Depending on whose side you're on or which side of history you're on, you're going to see things from a different lens. And what's awesome about writing from Rowan's perspective is that he's not really involved in the conflict of kingdoms and the wars. He was from a tiny little village that wasn't being oppressed by anybody. So when he gets to Chandria and it's like, wow, there's all this like hate amongst his people for these oppressors, he hasn't quite experienced it until the beginning of this book. It opens on Tribute Day, and it's this day that all Chandrians hate because it signifies, 100 years of the oppression that they have suffered under Mestria. And every day on this day, they have to give up like their wealth. They have to offer a
Yeah.
tribute in taxes. If you're an iron baron, you basically are just handing over your iron to a kingdom that's just going to go oppress other kingdoms. So it's a way to feed the war machine. And this is the first time for Rowan, so he doesn't really know what to expect. But Akron and Ravel are just very embittered by it. Akron especially, like, it's the most hated day of the year. I think that's what Ravel says, like, welcome to the worst day of the year. And that's his crass, humor. And so it really sets the stage like, okay, the first chapter opens with this thing looming. And that day, not to go into spoilers, but it's in the blurb. Rowan and Akron are both going to be faced with encountering the Mestrian's enforcer in the city of Arjun. And this guy is a cutthroat soldier to the core. You do not want to upset this
He's
guy.
very, very scary. He's a very scary individual.
Oh man, so you just do not want to cross this guy. And both Rowan and Akron in different ways will have an encounter and a conflict with him, and it will basically change the course of their life, probably for the future. So, man, yeah, it's just a nonstop tension gripped story.
You start the story off with the slingshot pulled and ready to fire. So you can
That's
feel
good
the
picture.
tension just right off the bat. There's tension. You know that things are about to explode, and it really is a page turner. One of my favorite side characters, actually, I kind of love how you do this because we were talking about Mestria. When you're living in the world of Mestria as a soldier or just part of that kingdom, you're not necessarily seeing yourself as a bad guy. And I love how you bring in a character who is, he kind of appears in the Conjurer's Curse a little bit, and then he starts to sparkle a little bit more in the Wraiths
Ooh,
of Arjun. Could
sparkle.
you?
Yeah.
And I love him. I'm leaning into that character a little bit because I can see like where you're taking him. Can you tell us a little bit about him?
Okay, so I believe you are speaking of Hawk.
Yes.
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 Okay, so he does appear in the Conjurer's Curse, and just a little like hint, you know, of him. And I think just his humor stands out a little bit, and he does help Rowan in a chapter. And so I based him off of my brother.
Oh, that's awesome.
Okay, so I love my brother. He's the one who got me into reading sci-fi and fantasy, but he's a very loving, fun individual. He's a jokester. He's very empathetic. He's a feeler, but he also has a very clear sense of justice and right and wrong. And so one thing he can't stand injustice. And so I was like, I'm embedding all of this into Hawk. So, if he stands out, it's because I based him off of a real character. And I Hawk serves such a good like purpose, especially in the Race of Arjun, because he is a Mestrian soldier, and Rowan has already kind of befriended him. They have a little bit of
Mhm.
rapport from the Conjurer's Curse. So when all this madness and craziness and heaviness is happening in the Race of Arjun with the oppression, the tribute day, just things going bad, Hawk comes on the scene with his chipperness, and Rowan's like, yes, like sure, let's chat, let's have a dialogue, but like I have to be so cautious because this person is technically the enemy, but yet I see him as a friend.
Yes.
So there's a lot of tension and conflict there, and I just love how that dynamic is where you can't just see the Mestrians as like evil people because, everybody has their own personality. They have their own reason for why they might be serving in the military. Like so
Yeah.
much stuff is culture embedded. So Hawk has these, attributes that make him likable. And I gave him like sisters, because my brother has a couple of sisters. So there's an endearing quality about him. And he definitely has a protective nature about him, especially when it comes to like women. He's very chivalrous, so he's that like wonderful knight in folk stories that we love and legends. Yeah, so I love Hawk, and I know a lot of readers have said that, oh, like Hawk was like their favorite side character. So that's really wonderful to hear.
Yes, I really like him. He stands out for sure. And you're hoping that you want more of him. You're kind of cheering for him and hoping he makes certain decisions. And another thing, I mean, you're really brilliant at character development. So if you like a good
Thank you.
character-driven story, be sure to be picking up The Conjurer's Curse first, and then be ready to buy The Wraiths of Arjun.
Yep.
One of the things I love that you do in your character development is you give your characters fun little quirks. And one of my favorite quirks is Akron's love of food. It gives him so much personality. He kind of reminds
Yes.
me of Dean from Supernatural, where
Oh,
he's kind of got that, like edginess to him. He could be kind of a
yeah.
jerk, but but he loves food. And in some ways it endears him to the reader because he kind of bends whenever it comes to food being offered to him.
Yes. Okay. So that, that goes back to the Conjurer's curse and like establishing certain things about him, because if he's just this like arrogant, brash individual, it would be easy to continue to hate him. So I knew that eventually I was going to try to sway the reader, when I'm writing for his perspective. So like I got to give him some fun quirks. And I definitely think his friendship with Ravel helped a lot in humanizing Akron. And then I thought, okay, here's a guy who probably is not soft in any means, like he doesn't know how to be cordial or nice to people. So what does he love? I was like, loves boxing and he loves food. Those are
Yes.
his two things. Like if you can just appeal to him in that sense, you will get, like, that's how you get in. I think Tahira makes a comment in The Race of Arjun, like the only way to Akron's heart is through food. So if you cook him something, make his favorite meal, like you're going to outdo yourself and probably, ingratiate yourself to him forever. So, and honestly, I base that off of my husband too.
I
So
love that.
there's a lot of personality and quirks that I from my husband I put into Rowan, but the one that I took from him to put into Akron was the love of food. That's like anytime we travel anywhere, my husband's just like, I just want to go for food. Food.
Where's the food?
So, where's the food? So yeah, and it's humorous. I feel like
It is.
there's so many funny elements in The Race of Arjun that revolve around food for Akron.
I love that. I really think that your stories they're dark, but they're also really bright because of the characters that you put into them. So you get this nice mixture of cheering for your characters, yet in the darkness of being oppressed and just in the world that they're in. So it's a good mix to make a person really lean in and enjoy the story. I want to ask
Yes.
you because
Hmm.
you turn out books faster than most people that I know. So, do you have any advice as far as what you do as a writer when you're developing your stories, when you go in to write them? Like, what is some of the things that you do that just helps you launch out and begin to put the words out on the page?
Well, so I am a pantser, so I don't outline, but I think when I'm starting a story, I really have a good sense of what the beginning is going to be, and it just kind of explodes. And so I don't map it all out, and I kind of just let the story unfold with my characters. And I think creating the right ambiance and environment for your writing will help a lot. I
Yeah.
am so musically inspired. I can just
Yes.
hear a song and it's like, wow, I can see my character fighting off a horde of an army right now because this is so epic. And music is so important. I can hear a song with certain lyrics and it will put me right into a character's headspace. Um, you can create playlists. I have a playlist for Akron.
Oh, that's awesome.
This is kind of new. Like I didn't always have playlists, but I have a playlist for Akron, and it really helped with writing book 3. Starting it because that one also I just exploded
Yeah.
with writing because I knew exactly how I wanted the first like third of the book to go, and having that playlist kept me like in his headspace. So that will really help too, I think, to unlock certain things in your character. One of my side characters that you meet in The Race of Arjun named Keegan, he's actually a younger character. He's like 14. I have created a
Oh, okay.
playlist. I know. I just created a playlist for him because, as you said, things kind of go dark at
Hmm.
times. I'm all about levity too.
Hmm.
So I like to balance the levity with or balance the tension and the kind of the darkness with a little bit of fun because sometimes when we're going through the worst things, like you're
Yeah.
going through grief, you're going through loss, sometimes we just crack a joke because that's all
Yeah.
we can do. So with Keegan, I've created a playlist and it's a bit more of somber. I won't go into details about that. So it's helping me kind of unlock things with him.
Mhm.
So if you're someone who writes in silence, you know, that's great. But I love music. So I will start my day with either coffee or matcha tea. I light a candle. I get the surround sound going because luckily I'm fortunate to have awesome surround sound. So I'll put the TV on, I put epic music on, and I'm a big Attack on Titan fan. So that music is so awesome and so like tension heavy that I probably write all of my action scenes
Oh, that's cool.
with music from that series. And then if I'm writing just more like they're traveling through a countryside or whatever, I put on Lord of the Rings.
Yes.
And I'll have like a video of like Gondor in the distance, and it's just kind of that sweeping musical score that helps keep my mind engaged. I also do some immersive writing videos that keep me on track. It's like 2 hours. There's 25-minute sprints, so like I know I'm locked in and for those times. And honestly, set the phone aside. It's become such
Yeah.
a distraction that there are times where I'm like, sorry, I'm just going to take a week off from social media. I'm going to hide the phone. So at least for those 2 hours, I am committed to writing because we can get so distracted. So I try to like set aside certain times, like Monday and Wednesday are my dedicated writing days. If I don't write all day, at least if I can do that 2 hour increment, then hopefully I can get something done. So
I love that because intentionality really is where it's at. If you're waiting to feel like writing, or if you're waiting for writing to happen, it's probably not going to. But if you're intentional with your schedule and you set aside the time intentionally, like it's a job, it's not a hobby, this is something that's important, then it will happen.
yes, and oftentimes it's taking those breaks. So if I take my 5-minute break or I go cook
Yes.
something and I feel stuck at that moment, my characters might start talking in that increment of time, and then I can write it down in my notes. And get those notes written down like
Yes.
very fast because I just recently had the most terrible thing happen to me. My phone updated and somehow I lost 2 months worth of notes in my app.
No.
I don't know how it happened. And I had an
No.
entire scene written from Keegan's point of view. So my side character that I'm
Oh,
thinking
that's
of turning
painful.
into a point of view in book 3. And I'm like, no, my God, I can't recreate it because it was stream of consciousness.
Yes.
I was like, so I was really upset. And so like I was pouting for probably 3 days. It was useless. I could not get back into his headspace. So that is why I created that playlist. I was like, okay, come on, guys, like
Yes.
talk to me, tell me your sorrow, recreate it for me. And I was able to. I don't think I got it exactly how it was, but hey,
Yeah.
some new stuff happened. So, if you do put it in your notes, get it on your document ASAP.
Yes. And back it up. Yeah.
And back it up.
I don't know how many people, luckily we have the cloud now and we've got Google Drives and things like that, but always back it up. You never know. I always have a little thumb drive that every now and then I'll just put it on there just in case some wild and crazy thing were to happen with Google or the cloud or anything like that. Because there is nothing worse than that feeling of losing what you've spent so much time. And then when you're writing inspired, it is hard to get that back. So
Yeah.
go you for just getting on there and doing it again, because I know exactly how that feels.
Oh
I
man, I
identify with
know.
that pain. I've lost an entire chapter once.
Oh gosh.
I just accidentally hit delete. I don't know. You know how it highlights something and then it
Yeah.
deletes? And then I pushed the back button and it didn't work. And it was like gone. I tried to retrieve
Oh,
it for far too long and just realized it was lost, and it's painful. So yeah, writers, back up your stuff.
yes.
But if something like that to happen, don't give up. Just keep
Don't
writing,
give
keep
up.
going.
Yes. Like
Yes,
if you need to rant and pout for like a
yes,
day or two, do it. But then like just okay, I need this. I must have
yes.
it. So just tell yourself it's okay and
And
it,
keep
it will come
going.
back. And that was my
Yes,
husband. He kept like, Stephanie, you could do this. It'll come back. Just sit down, put that
yes.
music on. I'm like,
Okay.
okay. And of course, he always looks on the bright side. I've been so thankful for him because he's like, you're a writer. Like it's gonna come to you. Just do what you do.
Yes. It's good
I
to
think
have a
you're right.
cheerleader in your corner
It
on
it
moments like
is.
that, for real.
But at least I only lost a scene. I didn't lose an entire manuscript or a chapter. So,
Do you have any advice for people who are starting to write a book?
I always tell people don't compare yourself to others. So I think that's the biggest thing. And it's easy for us to compare our writing to somebody who's honestly been making a career out of it for years. So, if you're just starting, immerse yourself in what you're writing in your
Yes.
world. Find joy in what you're crafting, put that music on that just constantly keeps inspiring you. Throw away perfection. Like know that you're shoveling like sand to build a castle, and it's not going to come it may not come easily, and you may have to really work for it. I spent years and years developing my craft with my first series that's not published still, so that just shows you, like, I wrote 7 books before I even got this one published. So I was definitely taking my time, and I was just learning as I was writing, and it was so important to read. I always say you gotta be reading, read in your genre, pay attention to how authors are developing characters, pay attention to how they're putting suspense and tension, and even micro tension, just little words here and there that helps kind of set the atmosphere and the mood. So all these things are little tricks that you learn from reading, and it will help your writing. So yeah, forget perfectionism and don't compare yourself. Those are my two big tips.
I love that. And I love what you said about having fun and getting inspired and immersing yourself in the world that you're creating. And one of the fun things that I know both Stephanie and I do that I have had so much fun with is scouring Pinterest for characters and images of the
Yes.
world. You can't find it just completely right, but it's still kind of fun to create mood boards and to find images that look like your characters. It
Yes.
helps you imagine them, capture them. It helps the world become more real and tangible. And it's a fun thing to do as you're writing a book. And I highly recommend it. Sometimes looking at something, looking at the world that you're building and having an image that's closely captures it as close as you can get helps you even in your descriptions as you're writing. It helps
Yes.
you really immerse yourself in your world. So it's a really good practice.
Yeah, it'll make your world feel more tangible if you're, building from a picture or an illustration for
Yes.
your character.
So, Stephanie, where can people find you if they want to know more about you and buy your book?
So my link tree is // Stephanie Cotta, and you will find my website there. I am on Facebook, Instagram, TikTok, LinkedIn. There's probably a few other places that I didn't list, but my website is sdanielacotta.com. So that's the easy place to go to, and you can pick up my books. So The Conjurer's Curse is available now, and then The Wraiths of Arjun, woohoo, is out today. So yay! They're both available where books are sold. Yeah, so
And don't
so
you have
excited.
like a new release promo going on until the
Yes, yes. So if you order a copy of my book, I will send you a bookmark and a sticker. All you got to do is screenshot it and DM me on whatever social media sites that you follow me on, if that's Instagram or Facebook or TikTok. I'd be happy to send those to you in the US. I'm only doing it for the US. So sorry if you're elsewhere, but yes.
and that ends today.
Yes.
So
Yep.
get
So
on it.
this is the final day. Yep.
So it's Christmas time, and please support some authors. Buy Stephanie's book. It is well worth the read. I have had so much fun reading them, and it's not just because Stephanie is my friend and writing partner. It's because I love the stories, and I'm super excited that The Wraiths of Arjun is coming out. Buy the series for someone that you know loves a good adventure fantasy story. Both men and women will enjoy this story. It's got a lot of grit. It's got love. It's got all kinds of fun things that a lot of people will relate to. So please pick it up. Give her a like on her social media, get on her Instagram, get on her TikTok, support her. And also, if you would support the Ink Mages, give us a like, give us a comment, tell us your favorite fantasy series. Maybe let us know if you've purchased Stephanie's book and what you think of it. We'd love to know. Leave her a review on Amazon if you've purchased the book. Can't even begin to tell you how much that helps support your favorite author just by taking a few minutes to leave a review. We have tons of fun Christmas content coming up for you. So be prepared for all of the fun things that we're going to be releasing this holiday season. And we'll see you next time.